The funeral of the journalist Ali Abbas proceeds from Jdeida Tartus, where he was murdered by a terrorist group yesterday. Our armed forces deal heavy blows to the mercenary terrorists in Aleppo and elsewhere. Gatilov asserts that the UN Secretary-General admitted that the armed opposition was responsible for escalating violence in Syria. America and Turkey are exerting feverish efforts to support the terrorists. And President Putin, Russia's military forces are capable of carrying out the most difficult tasks. Good afternoon, welcome to our news bulletin. I'm Dania Nizam. The funeral of the journalist Ali Abbas, chairman of the Department of the Local News at the Syrian Arab news agency Sana, proceeded from the police hospital in Damascus countryside. His body was wrapped with the Syrian Arab flag and he was carried by his colleagues. A group of mercenary terrorists yesterday murdered the journalist Ali Abbas. They opened fire on him in his house in Jdeida Tartus. In turn, the Syrian Network for Human Rights condemned the armed terrorist group's assassination of journalist Ali Kamal Abbas, who is one of the staff of the Syrian Arab news agency Sana, by attacking his house and shooting him in cold blood. The network said in a statement that this crime is a flagrant violation of the principles of human rights and the freedom of expression, which has been emphasized by the Human Rights International Principles, Article 25 of the Rome Statute, putting the responsibility on those who commit this criminal act, supported it, funded it, and those who provide safe haven for the perpetrators. They also put on them the responsibility for the dangers that the Syrian media personalities are being exposed to. The Syrian Network of Human Rights called on the world organizations, Reporters Without Borders, the World Journalists Federation, the UNESCO, the United Nations and the Security Council to move quickly to put an end to these violations and expose them to the world public opinion. The criminal TV channels involved in bloodshed in Syria are being exposed through their adoption of the terrorists and their terrible acts of sabotage, abduction and murder. Bara al-Boushi, who claimed to be a journalist accompanying the armed terrorists, said in a telephone call to Orient TV channel last night that the 4 members of the team representing the Syrian TV news channel were with him. Meanwhile, the Syrian Consultative Center for Studies and Human Rights called upon international bodies and organizations to interfere with and exert pressure on the governments behind the kidnappings of the Syrian Al-Ikhbariya TV team to ensure their safety. The centre said national media is under a fierce campaign as evidenced in the kidnapping accident. The centre said that this crime against the press team has doubled since the free opinion is safeguarded by international laws, indicating that the international human rights agreements listed such acts under coercive disappearance punishable by criminal courts. In Moscow, Mr. Gennady Gatilov, Deputy Foreign Minister of Russia, asserted that the UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon admitted in his letter to the UN Security Council that the armed opposition was responsible for escalating violence in Syria, particularly in Aleppo. Mr. Gatilov added that the UN Secretary-General gave objective assessments of the situation in Syria, admitting that the escalation in Aleppo stemmed from the operations of the armed groups. However, it is important that he called for preserving international presence in Syria. Mr. Ki-moon said in his letter to the UN Security Council that the armed opposition was responsible for attacks in Damascus and Aleppo. The national flag was hoisted again in Salah ad-Din Square in Aleppo after units of our valiant armed forces purged it from the remaining mercenary terrorists. Normal life and safety were restored when the terrorists were defeated and their weapons and stolen medical equipment were confiscated. Our armed forces also foiled a new attempt by the terrorists to storm the TV station in Aleppo. After a process of observation and follow-up in collaboration with Syrian citizens, our security forces killed the prominent member of the so-called Victory Front, the terrorist Wa'il Mohammed al-Majdalawi, in Damascus yesterday. The security forces also chased members of the terrorist gangs in the Dar'a refugee camp. The clashes led to the death and wounding of several terrorists, including Mu'ayyad Musa al-Zabi and Ahmed Mohammed Harfoush. In Ariha, in the Idlib countryside, the security forces captured a number of terrorists who committed many crimes and frightened citizens. The security forces also confiscated 80 explosive devices. They also found a hiding place where terrorists used to torture abducted people. They found a field hospital containing stolen medicine and medical equipment, in addition to an armored vehicle containing military bags. Our security forces inflicted many casualties among a terrorist group that committed terrible crimes. They confiscated large amounts of weapon and ammunition. Our security forces staged an ambush for the terrorists in the Hama countryside, killing several of them. In Tel Mnin, in the Damascus countryside, and in collaboration with Syrian citizens, the security forces captured two of the most dangerous wanted terrorists, namely Safwan Abdel Fattah al-Lazqani and Ma'mun al-Rifa'i. The security forces also killed a number of the most dangerous terrorists in several governorates and destroyed several of their vehicles. The people of the area of Al-Sfira in Aleppo closed their quarter and prevented a terrorist group using 5 vehicles from entering. The people called upon the security forces to protect them from such terrorists. The security forces responded, destroying the vehicles and killing dozens of terrorists who had come to terrify the people and to kill innocent citizens. In Homs, our security forces confronted a terrorist group that came in 2 vehicles armed with machine guns and tried to attack Al-Ghassaniya in the countryside of Al-Qasir. They destroyed both vehicles and killed the terrorists who used them. The authorities also carried out a coalitive operation in Homs yesterday and destroyed 2 hideouts for the armed terrorist groups in the Hamidiyya neighborhood. A source in the governorate said that during the process, dozens of terrorists were eliminated as their ammunition warehouse was destroyed. The competent authorities also continued to search for the armed terrorist groups in Al-Shammas neighborhood in the city. These groups were attacking the citizens, and the clash resulted in the deaths of a number of terrorists and the wounding of many others. The competent authorities also pursued armed terrorist groups in the city of Talbisa and arrested 26 terrorists who are attacking citizens and cutting off the roads and shooting at the passing by cars. The village of Eastern Dumania in Homs buries its 9th martyr, Oscar Garbi, who died of wounds in the massacre committed by terrorists 2 days ago. Earlier, 9 citizens from Dumania Al-Sharqiyya village in Homs countryside were martyred Friday when a terrorist group fired mortar rounds at the village, hitting the house containing the 10 martyrs. The martyrs are Milad Ibrahim Razzouk Ali Rizqallah Al-Gharbi and his brother Ibrahim Khalil Razzouk and his brother Latif Alyas Iskitnafi, Naim Khalil Razzouk, Mayad Sleiman Dali, Ibtisam Khalil Razzouk and Nadine Samuel Al-Gharbi. President Vladimir Putin of Russia affirmed that developing the Air Force was one of the most important trends in Russia's military policy to modernize its armed forces. During the celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Russian Air Force, Mr. Putin said that priority was given to providing the Air Force with the most developed modern planes and helicopters. He stressed the important role of the Russian Air Force in the field of consolidating Russia's national security. He pointed out that the success of the Russian Air Force included achievements in space. The number of victims of the 2 earthquakes that struck northwestern Iran yesterday are up to 250 killed and more than 2,000 injured. That is in accordance to what has been announced by the Center of Natural Disasters in the province of West Azerbaijan. The Iranian Deputy Interior Minister expected the numbers of victims to rise because some of the injured are in critical conditions in addition to others that are still trapped under the rubble in places difficult to reach. On their part, officials from the city of Ahar said that 60 villages have been damaged as they are in need of help. And according to the relevant committees, the center of earthquakes is located 60 kilometers from Tabriz and it is about 10 kilometers deep. With this, we conclude our news bulletin for today. For more news about Syria and the region, you can visit our website, syriaonline.sy. Now it's over to our economic news with Vani. After a short break, God bless you, and God have mercy on all our martyrs.
Good afternoon. President Bashar al-Assad issued legislative decree number 53 of 2012, exempting imported gold from all taxes and duties that were imposed according to the provisions of law number 35 of 2007 and its emendations. The exemptions also included the cost of services, storage, and insurance duties. At the request of industrialists, the Ministry of Economy approved to grant all the licensed canned meat industrial facilities permits to import cows, goats, and sheep fat, as long as they abide by the standard specifications in Syria. The Ministry also allowed all exporters to export iron oxides, as long as the exported material is not scrap metals according to the regulations in force. Preparations for Eid al-Fitr are underway. Damascus markets are packed with shoppers who flock to buy their needs for the happy Eid.
Happy Eid is knocking the door, and the markets are gaining momentum in this occasion as shoppers flock into the stores to buy their needs of clothes and other several stuff.
The market is very crowded, full of people, and people are buying a lot.
We are buying clothes and goods. Thank God the market is full.
We are looking for clothes for Eid, for the children and for us. I'm still looking. I bought a few things.
Thank God the market is well. We've just come out of the house. We're walking around. Everything is normal.
People try to buy everything they need ahead of the Eid, so they go shopping early to have a variety of choices that may suit their tastes.
Everything is available and of the best qualities. We came to watch and we intend on buying.
Clothes for the Eid and sweets and everything.
There are many beautiful things in the market, blouses and shirts. I encourage all people to come and buy.
The pleasant atmosphere ahead of the Eid seems clear in Damascus markets. This is a distinguished feature in all Syrian cities nowadays, as the markets regain strength in this happy occasion.
Tartus Company for Cement and Building Materials has sold 744,000 tons since the beginning of this year, achieving 88% of its plan. The company's marketing and production report show that it has produced more than 680,000 tons of clinker, achieving 87% of its production plan, while regular cement production reached 743,000 tons. Overall agricultural areas in Idlib Governorate have reached 355,000 hectares. The Director of Agriculture in Idlib Governorate pointed out that Idlib is a strategic place for agriculture because it has many agricultural characteristics such as high rainfall averages, vast areas of forest, farms and grasslands, many rural development projects that are being carried on in the governorate, in addition to various water resources. These characteristics make the governorate grow a variety of summer and winter crops and food trees. The Director of International Cooperation and Planning at the Ministry of Agriculture affirmed that creating the suitable business climate will encourage agricultural investments and production, generating a better turnover, creating more job opportunities, and limit the migration from the countrysides to the cities. He also pointed out that the ministry's long-term vision aims at reaching the optimal use of natural resources and assuring sustainability while taking the environmental concerns into consideration in accordance with the international standards. And now over to the exchange rates according to the bulletin of the Central Bank of Syria. And with this we conclude our news. Thank you for watching and goodbye.